Hey guys, Gassy TV here with another Path of Exile 2 video, and in this one, I'm going to tackle a couple of handful of tips for the new players coming into Path of Exile 2. Maybe it's players that have never touched PoE 1. Now I know that the vast majority of the subscribers to this channel are literal PoE veteran gods, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask each and every single one of you that has experience with PoE 1 to drop a comment down below, giving you the best single one tip that you have for all the new players that's coming in. Let's crack into the video, and I'll go through some of the tips that I have for the new players. And welcome in to the last game you'll ever play. Dodge roll is your friend. This is a very, very important detail. Unlike Path of Exile 1, dodge roll itself is a defensive mechanic you're supposed to be using to get out of dodge and basically straight up dodge the enemy's attacks. What's very important to point out here is that the dodge roll itself does not have any iframes where you are rendered immune to any sorts of damage. There is also abilities in the game that are actually unavoidable with a dodge roll, and we don't really know which ones the abilities are going to be having this feature, so we'll have to see that as we play. So the way you want to use the dodge roll and how you have to think about it is a couple of very important factors. First off, enemy bosses or harder enemy abilities from rare targets and uniques, they have very, very well telegraphed abilities. They will wind up their attack and smack down with a big hit, or they have maybe an area that they're about to shoot a big projectile at. All of these things will allow you to have a much easier way to discover and see these things so that you can then move out of the way from these hits being hitting you. However, a couple of features around the dodge roll. One, it does not have any phasing. What that means is that you are actually unable to roll through enemy targets. So don't get surrounded. If you get surrounded, you're basically done for, because enemies will completely annihilate you. So avoid getting stuck, and also, the dodge roll itself cannot avoid AoE attacks and or ground effects. So let's say that a boss, for example, is smacking his hammer down on the ground, and it generates this cascade of explosions in a big radius. You cannot avoid that damage by rolling through it. That will hit you, whether or not you're rolling or not, it does not matter. Those type of abilities, you simply have to run out of. This is where movement speed modifiers on boots becomes a very, very effective defensive mechanic. However, if the same target is swinging his big weapon around and is about to hit you, that ability or that skill, you can dodge with a dodge roll. So again, dodge roll will allow you to dodge incoming attacks and also spell hits, as long as they are not a ground effect or an area of effects. Yeah, that sounded weird, but you can dodge those at least. Moving over to the second part of this video, it's equipment upgrades. PoE 2 puts a lot of emphasis on finding upgrades on the ground and also provides a lot more crafting materials compared to PoE 1. This allows players to use orbs such as the Transmutation Orb. This allows you to make a white or normal item into a magic item. And a magic item can have one or two modifiers. If a magic item only has one modifier, you can use an Augmentation Orb, adding another modifier to a magic item. And after this, you've capped out a magic item. Other crafting materials that can be effective and be used early game comes in the form of, say, Regal Orbs. This turns a magical item into a rare item. A rare item can have up to 6 modifiers, and you can add more modifiers to this item by using the Exalted Orbs, which is seemingly very commonly dropped in Path of Exile 2 and also confirmed by Jonathan in various interviews over the past 2 weeks. The important piece of information to pick up on this topic is in fact that equipment upgrades is extremely important for the general power of your character's efficiency. This can be seen in the general playthroughs from a bunch of us content creators out there, and one of the ones I'm going to mention in this is actually Subtractum's Sorcerer video, where he drops on the very first target an extremely powerful staff. This staff basically made him do so much damage that he was walking through a lot of the content in the early stage of the campaign. And this just puts another emphasis and confirmation in the importance of equipment upgrades as you're playing. The next topic is going to be skill gems and support gems. As you progress, you'll find yourself getting uncut skill gems and uncut support gems. Now, you can always follow a guide. I myself post a lot of guides for a variety of ARPG games, mostly for PoE, which will be found on Icy Veins later on, and this will help you navigate the vast amount of options. However, for the early access, this is actually going to be impossible, so we don't have enough information available to create proper guides for people to follow. Because of this, you're basically going to have to play early access like everyone else and just explore it and find your way through this insanely difficult jungle of options. So what you should think about in the early days of the early access launch is essentially the game itself providing you a very straightforward and also easy way to help newer players make functional and good choices by having a list of recommended skills for your class. Same goes for the uncut support gem system. When you cut an uncut support gem, the game will actually list recommended support gems that will work for the skills that you currently have equipped. The best tip here is to use the recommended list provided by the game, and keep in mind that unlike other ARPGs, your skills are meant to be used in combination with one another. A good example would be how a firewall can be placed on the ground, and if you then shoot a projectile through this firewall, such as, say, Spark, it makes those projectiles deal added fire damage. The second important detail to think about skills is that some abilities will be used situationally, as a utility kit for your character. And these can come in many different forms, such as skills making enemies take or deal more or less damage, freezing or slowing them, or straight up just stunning them. And this can become very important options to have ready at hand should you find yourself in need. The next topic I think is one of the more important ones for newer players coming into Path of Exile. Because unlike Path of Exile 1, the topic of health and resistances is that there's almost no life-providing modifiers on your passive skill tree. So in PoE2, this basic defensive modifier is now almost exclusively found on equipment. Just as important it is to increase your character's offensive capabilities, so is surviving. Finding or crafting equipment that has a life modifier is the most effective way to increasing your survival, but so is resistances in the later stages of the campaign. Other modifiers are just as important that fulfills the same results, such as having increased movement speed on your boots as mentioned earlier, as this will make you not just clear areas faster for your offensive clearing approach, but get out of harm's way easier to fulfill the defensive benefit of moving faster. Same goes for skills that stun, freeze, or slow enemies to help you with general survivability. So health and resistances should not be scoffed at and should be something you keep in mind as you're playing through. The last tip I have for you guys is going to be covering the topic of bosses. In Path of Exile 2, there will be about 50 bosses, and when the game launches, there will be 100 bosses and more when you're playing the game. You'll find yourself engaging a lot of these during the campaign with an absurd amount of different bosses, as mentioned. Most of these will drop passive permanent buffs to your character, ranging from increasing the maximum amount of spirit for your character, all the way to having passively give you extra resistances, which, as mentioned earlier, will be a very effective way to increasing your survivability. This obviously makes it very beneficial to hunt all of these down, and they should have a clear marker on the in-game map where to find them and what they provide to help you navigate this feature of the game. We've also got confirmed that these specific passive buffs will be found on these bosses in the endgame as well, so you don't necessarily have to farm all of them in the campaign. However, some of these bosses can be very tough to handle depending on your character's level and equipment. So do keep in mind that if you find yourself struggling to defeat a boss, you can always backtrack and farm previous areas to level up or find better gear and then give it another try at a later stage. As we content creators always do, I am going to ask you to hit that like button, subscribe for more content as it helps the channel out a lot, and we are so close to 100,000 subscribers, so I really appreciate that support. And as I mentioned in the start of this video, if you are an ARPG veteran or a PoE experienced player, let me know and let the new players know in the comments down below the best tip you have for new players coming in. And again, welcome in everyone joining in Path of Exile 2. I think, needless to say, I think we can all agree. We are super excited for this, and I'm just fuck! So till next time, as always, Exiles, stay safe and keep rocking.